All right. Good day, saints, elect. This is Johnson. I wanted to come today and share. Y'all know I don't do this often, but I had to because I'm seeing some of this manosphere thought process, this red pill thought process over in the way. Now I'm gonna govern my house and basically be like Joshua. As for me and my house, this is how we gonna function. Um, but I think I have to do something a little different and address some of these things that we see in the way. There are some people who have larger platforms that are making a lot of noise, and they're bringing the world into the awakening. So somebody has to say something, and I want to just present some of the information. Again, read for yourself. Read your scripture for yourself. Understand? The letters tell us that you got to work out your own soul salvation. Can't nobody do that for you. And I don't care how many likes somebody have. I don't care how many subscribers somebody has. Listen, you don't even know if those subscribers are bought, hands down. So, you've got to work out don't put your salvation, your walk with Yah in the hands of another man, the opinions of another man. So let's get into it. Listen, this brother, there was a brother that sent me this video of this guy who was in a particular assembly, and he is no longer a part of the assembly because of them not acknowledging a part of the culture that he wanted to participate in. Right? He says now he did say that he's not looking for to add to his family. However, the fact that the leadership did not want to address those things, he left. He departed. So I agree with that in principle. Let's take the whole word. Don't hold back. What's there is what's there in everything. Understand that you get, there are a couple of things that you want to understand regarding group dynamics, and the formation of assemblies and such. Group dynamics are as such. If this group is controlling the information, that's an issue. If you control the information and tell people what not to read, what not to listen to, you're going down the lines of a cult. Because if a person is educating themselves, get educated. One of the first things I did when I first began to walk and study the scripture 30 years ago was I looked at all the other religions. And basically what it did, according to the work that the Father had done in me, it solidified what I had learned. So, I would tell a person to study the truth first so that you can recognize a lie. But again, study. So, but it's called the bite model. They control the information that comes in. They control who you talk to, who you don't talk to. You're back to a mindset of the Nicolaitans when you do such. When another thing is, how do they treat their women? You could tell that you're in a religion by how they treat the women. The very portal by which every man has to come, So anyway, that being said, this brother brought out information about, men need to control their women, men need to stand up and everything. But there's some things that we have to remember what the Messiah said. The Messiah told us that in Matthew 18, if you go back and look at that, Matthew 18, that we've got, in order to enter into the kingdom, you must come as a child. You must come as a child. You have to humble yourself. It was a lot of chest thumping and everything in this particular video or whatever. And I think I've said on many occasions, as long as I've been in ministry, that the player has been played. That's the reason why he's a player. Okay, a lot of times men are afraid. And if you don't admit it, brother, it's up to you. It's only for you to be truthful about where you at. A lot of times men are players because they're afraid to commit like they did with that first one. The first one that broke their heart. Because we've been lied to and told that, they ask you early on if you have a girlfriend, and, oh, he gonna be. I remember being 5 or 6 years old, and back then, you're with a single mom, so they take you into the restroom with the women, right? I was an interesting little boy. So, but anyway, I remember this one occasion my mom was at work, and she took me into the ladies' break room, and the lady would say, "How many girlfriends you got?" And I put my hand up like this, and then like that, and they were like, "Ooh, child, he gonna be a heartbreaker. He gonna be a heartbreaker." Now these are women telling me this. This is women saying he's gonna be a heartbreaker, right? And knowing that they have issues with their, being one of the hearts that they have been broken by some man, So, but it was interesting that we've been taught from an early age, you got to have a boyfriend, you got to have a girlfriend, or this or that. And again, we don't even know ourselves. I hadn't even got my ABCs down, before you'd say that I'm gonna be involved with another person, another whole person, right? So in that, we put ourselves in a position, we've made it the norm, which was not Hebraic. We didn't have girlfriends and boyfriends back then. You didn't play with that. That was not something that was to be, messed with. Understand? Our relationships were different then. So here you go, it make like it's normal for people to have these committed, exclusive relationships with people. And all it did was damage us and give us baggage, right? So in this particular video, this brother is bringing that out, and you can see the baggage that he has, and my prayers are out for him. I'm not coming for anybody, but it's just that these things are being said, and I just want to present some different information for those men. And I know there are men out there like myself. You're the husband of one wife, and you raising your children, and you're doing, not that it's better than anybody else who done taken on a second wife. That's between you and Elohim. We have no. It is permitted in the scripture. Okay, so let's just get that out the way. However, if you are a man who is not healed from past hurts, you don't need another. Because first of all, you got to manage in your first relationship, in your first marriage, you got to manage some things. I think it's 1 Peter 3, where it tells the husbands to be subject to the father, subject unto the father as it pertains to each other. That, how we, one don't dominate over the other. One don't dominate over the other. We have a lot of that. We talk about alpha males. How do we even deal? How do you even reconcile that according to Torah? One using a worldly definition of something. I don't see the alpha males in the script. I saw men who got a word from the Father, word from Yah, and handled their business. I see that. But I saw those same men be afraid at times and admit their fear. So is that alpha male? Is that the alpha that we're talking about? I've seen folks who cried, who cried out to the Father for various reasons. I see the mighty men that were with David that cried out to the Father, who wept so much because they lost their families, who wept so much they didn't have any more weeping in them. Where's the alpha in that? We can't be defined by this world, this Western world view, and say, come out of Babylon at the same time. We can't do it, guys. We can't do it. Yeah. Well, how's about Psalms 34, where it talks about departing from dysfunction and seek and peace and pursue it. Pursue peace, but here we are. We in this civil war of relationships. We're making this difference between, the men and women. And what was interesting, the young man that was interviewing this guy, I don't believe he's married. So you don't even have when you're talking relationship. It's funny how we want to develop groups and we want to develop followings, and these people are not vetted. He said, you know them by their fruit, not by how clever they can talk and how articulate they are. He didn't say that. Paul said it a lot of times. We didn't come to you in the excellency of speech. He learned a few Hebrew words, and now all of a sudden he's an authority in speaking on this or that. That is not. We can't allow that, because we begin to feel as far as allowing a child to lead us, or a child will be our oppressor, right? Because this mentality, this red pill mentality, this alpha male mentality is the mindset of our oppressor. And it's interesting how I've shared with some other brothers about how if you look at Leah Coca, I believe it is, and you see his life and how he fought vehemently, he fought really, really hard against tyrants, dictators, right? Only for him to become a dictator. And I believe that's what has happened in this awakening, is that we've looked at, you've been lied to, and, these people are your oppressor. We've been looking at the oppressor so much that we done become the oppressor, and we're oppressing even within our families, our wives, how we dealing with our wives. Some of us are quoting Sirach and everything. When if you pay attention to what Sirach said, look at the whole thing that he said. If you're married to a Yah-fearing, Messiah-loving wife, then the things that Sirach said about these silly women don't apply to your wife. So you don't function with your wife from that. Even from the standpoint of treading on the blood of our Messiah. Hamashiach came to die. And if you pay attention to Jeremiah 3, everybody talk about the trespass offering. And this is true. Die for our iniquities, trespasses, and sins and such. Yes. But the other piece of that is that while he spoke in betrothal language, that I won't drink from this cup again until I come back, till I return, and so on and so forth. He had to he had to die in order to be remarried to Judah and to Israel. Look at it in Jeremiah 3. He gave of himself. Rabbi Shaul said that as well. He died to himself. But this manosphere thing, it's not talking about. I mean, the brother was talking about to not give your wits to women. Now the thing is, yes, to women. But there are things in the scripture that talks about when you look at Proverbs, the parents rule together in Proverbs. Say, obey the commands of your father and the law of your mother. Right? So if we can get this togetherness thing, together, we'll be all right. We'll be all right. Even back to, so I was saying that about the treading on the blood of Yahusha. Now, Yahusha was the second Adam. Sorry about that. So Yahusha was the second Adam, right? And he was supposed to have annihilated everything that Adam done, right? He brought life, right? He restored us to before the fall, right? But what's interesting to me is how we treat our women is after the fall. And a man shall rule, your desire is going to be for your husband, and he shall rule over you. And there was a lot of that energy in this particular video. So we have to pay attention to how we are dealing with our spouses, right? Did not Abraham, the father told him to hearken unto his wife and everything. What did Zipporah, Moshe hadn't circumcised the boy, and she went ahead and circumcised the boy. What about Yehudith? Yehudith didn't tell nobody nothing what she was doing, but she went and got, took care of herself. She come up out of her clothes of mourning, and she got dressed, and she dressed nicely. She looked good. She didn't look like no haggard Hebrew. Oppressing our women. You got a dress code. Find me the dress code for women in the scripture. Not the letters. In the scriptures. Find me a dress code for women. And I'm not advocating somebody walking around with a bodysuit, breasts all out, I see your tucha patch. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about that. And this awakening you make like it's a sin for a woman to look good. Boy, that's your problem. Check out my video on the clothing, talking about how we are projecting. You're projecting your weaknesses onto women and adding to the law, my friend. I had a young man tell me that there was something that a woman was wearing that wasn't befitting for a high Shabbat. And I was like, I didn't know that was a dress code. And can you show me in what that's in 2nd Deuteronomy, the 69th chapter in the 81st verse, where there's a dress code for the high Shabbat for women? Show me that. And when I saw what the woman had on, it wasn't like she was in there with biking tights. I'm gonna go back to the 80s. Biking tights, biking shorts, and she got a halter top on. That ain't it. It ain't in there. I'm sorry, you ain't gonna. You find it, send it to me. I'm pliable. I'm pliable. But when you find the high Shabbat, dress code for women, let me know. Let me know. Because look, the Father said, that's things again. They adding to the script, but the there is when you begin to lord it over Yah's inheritance, you get in trouble with Yah. You wonder why some of these things are happening throughout the awakening? Is because people are lording it over Yah's inheritance. Now, some people are becoming the seed by the wayside, the seed in the stony places, and they're not fertile ground. Because some of them are leaving because of how a person acts, how a leaders act within an assembly or whatever. First of all, the way we assembling these days ain't even the way we assembled back then. We church 2.0. When your assembly is controlling who you can talk to, you church 2.0. We did that back in the church. If somebody left the church, you can't talk to them no more. Don't associate. Don't affiliate with them no more. You see, they going to hell. Everybody in here, all us in here, worshiping in here. We going, the Lord is coming for us, understand. You got to be saved and sanctified, understand. Sit down with all that. You're dividing, you're scattering the flock. So anyway, the word says, the letters tell us, don't lord it over our Yahuwah's inheritance. So that applies to you, man, in your household. You don't lord it over your family. He tells us not to provoke our children to wrath. If I don't provoke my children to wrath, should I not provoke my wife to wrath? I'm supposed to be washing her in the word. If the Most High is long suffering with us, why can't I be long suffering with my wife? And come out of the mindset of suffering as far as, I'm suffering something. No, suffer was to allow something. So in other words, being patient. 2 Peter 1, 3 through 11. Come on, let us do that. The brother mentioned something too in Ezekiel, where he talking about the flock and everything. I don't know where we got. Well, I do know where we got this. Let me just go back to the church. One of the areas where we were off in the church, I say we because I'm a product of it. Where I've learned that we were off was this thought process that there was one man, the pastor, who was responsible for the flock. Where he lose his family. His kids are jacked up. But it's because he taking care of Yah's flock. Yah did not give you anything to do. That's his bride. Let's get that first. Let's get that together first. But again, that's the Greco-Roman model, where you have that one guy. And we wonder why they have issues. And in some cases, I've even entertained the thought that, man, because I knew some pastors who are really sincere to where they do nothing on Saturdays in preparation for Sunday. So ignorantly, they were keeping the Shabbat, right? They were keeping the Shabbat. And what's interesting is the blessing that, these guys who were sincere in their work, they were teaching only from what they knew, Um, and I've seen the blessings on their lives, right? But they weren't crucified for the Messiah, for his people. They were not, they are not the Messiah. And that's basically what you're treating them as. You're treating them as if they were crucified for you. You pledge allegiance to these people. And Paul said, and I'm telling you, I'm saying it because I did it. And I led other people into it. That the brother that brought me into, that exposed to me who we were in the scriptures, I was teaching him about as far as dealing with the pastor. We were working under a pastor in League City. I was on drums and he was in the choir. And there were some things that we saw in there that we need to do. And I was telling him the protocol, you got to do this. And in no way am I saying that there is not protocol. The protocol that we see, the 70 elders, those were family members. Those are heads of families. So the people knew. And then not only that, the Ruach HaKodesh was given to them. It was not this Greco-Roman model that we following. And that's why we're having these Greco-Roman problems. If you study the history of Greece and Rome, their thought process toward their women were second-class citizens. Their women were only for procreation. And that's what you have reduced them to. That's what you reduce the women to, and it's sad, but that's what we going. That's what we're doing out here, and this is what I see. And according to the script, that ain't the way we're supposed to function. We were told not to govern our affairs like the Gentiles. Matthew 20, say around 25 through 28, is saying that the Gentiles, they treat their people like this. They govern like this. He said, you ain't supposed to. You don't do that. You don't function like them. So when we do that, and we totally look over the when he say that, we got to humble ourselves. If any man gonna be great in the kingdom, Matthew 18. We don't consider in the energy this brother was giving off, the spirit he was coming in, it was like his wife better do what he say kind of thing. As if, like in Matthew 18:10, say that their angels go before the Father or before the Father's face continually. So you have a witness that's going before the Father against you when you're not dealing with your wife according to knowledge. When you don't see her as a contrast to you, not somebody beneath you. Because everything that Adam was, the woman was. And so cold that the Father didn't even have to blow into her nostrils because she was everything that was already in Adam was already in her. It was already set. She was already set. And he didn't say it was good until then. Why? Because now I have a portal to bring the rest of my souls on the planet. Think about that. I'm not talking about woman worship, but just like Paul said, the script, the chapter y'all love to talk about, having a woman's head covered, that he totally said that there is no such custom. We have no such custom. He said in there, man is without the woman and the woman is without the man. Neither one of them can be without the other. And that's what we see. We're not a nation if we don't come together. And our women. if we don't come together as men and women in this awakening. So we got to humble ourselves, man. We got to humble ourselves. We got to humble ourselves before Yah. I'm not saying bow down to women, but just as Ephesians 5 told us to deal with, told us to submit ourselves one to another. We got to come together. We cannot be, and Ephesians 5 was listen, at my honeymoon, my wife and I read Ephesians 5. That was our chapter. That we was going to follow the Father. We're going to go with him, no matter what. Matter of fact, early on in ministry, back in 2003, the ministry that I came up in, there was some situations, there was some falsehoods, there was some things. Matter of fact, when my daughter was born in 2002, Evan Sinclair, her name means because of Yah's goodness, I see clearly. I didn't know I was going to see what I saw, but that was the name that was given to us to name her. And so it's like Yah uncovered that ministry and everything that was going on and things that was being done. And it was rough at first. It was rough. It was. But I didn't leave Yah. I wasn't going to leave Yah because of him, even though he was the one that brought me into, ask me those questions. What were you born for? Before I knew anything about a Miles Monroe, he was my Miles Monroe. What were you born for? What is the Father talking to you about? I'm like, man, me and you just came from church. I'm giving him a ride home from church. So we just came from church, and you ain't just hit with, no. What is he saying to you? He want to talk to you. And those few questions started my quest on knowing my Elohim for myself. And I began to learn. I became a kid again. I became that little 5-year-old kid at Baptist church. When my mama told me, you black, you Christian, and you Baptist. I'm like, wow, I'm 3 things. Started learning about the Son. Didn't quite understand the Son, the death, burial, and resurrection, but because that's what the pastor was saying. It's the death, the burial, and the resurrection. I'm like, what does the bell have to do anything with it? It was the burial. So anyway, we gotta get in that word, looking at that word for ourselves, and become the men that we were destined to become. I'm not talking about this Rambo. I'm not talking about this. Let me come to the guys of this age, the Fast and Furious. I'm not talking about them guys. I'm not talking about Game of Thrones. I'm not talking about none of that. No, you have a word from Yah, and yeah, you handle your business. Don't get it twisted. But that's not your identity. Paul told Timothy, hey, don't be like these people. They're aping out the money. They're doing things for money and whatnot. He told them in gentleness, function in gentleness. We don't hear that today. As this guy was talking about the weaker vessel. I don't know where Peter got that as far as the weaker vessel. Because when you think about, I was looking for a precept for weaker vessel, and I didn't see it. I didn't see, how the woman was the weaker vessel. Now we can go into science and physiology. For instance, a woman playing football. They have higher rates of concussion, right? Okay, you can say that, but It's not like the man does not have concussions playing football. No, they just have higher rates of concussion in football. You know, why that is, who knows? But I do know, can't no man have no baby. I do know every 28 days, a man doesn't endure cramps like a woman does. Let's say even let's say even in the joys of sex. You know, guys want to, man, you're nothing but a pussy. Inferring that he's weak. But have you thought about what the vagina goes through when you got a stiff rod ramming back and forth? Yeah, I said ramming. We all grown. We all grown. A man, you get kicked in the balls, it's a wrap. That's the quickest way to win a fight. I'm just saying. So a weaker vessel, if anybody have, and I'm not being facetious at all, if anybody have a precept on weaker vessel, let me know. Because when I'm dealing with the letters, if I can't take it back to the origin, to the Torah, then it's suspect to me. And I'm not saying a cross-reference of the same writer. Because we got a lot of cross references in the letters that is of the same writer. That's not a precept. That's not anything that supports or solidifies. It's the same writer, right? So again, back to Ezekiel, when he said in Ezekiel 34 and 31, he was saying that people are men, and it's like, come on, go ahead and read past that. You're basically separating the women from the men, again, as if women are second-class citizens. That's a Greco-Roman mindset. You have to ask yourself sometimes, too, because there's wisdom that can come from women, and we have that experience. And two, let me just say this, because everybody likes to go to the judges and talk about Deborah and stuff like that. And yes, and truth be told, I think the reason why they came out, this nation came out with the slave Bible, so that people will double down on the 66. But there's just no way that you can tell me that a sovereign nation, a nation that was sovereign for centuries, that their entire history can fit in your hand. And that's not even the whole history. I mean, you got other stuff in there. You got the letters in there. You got the prophets in there. But I'm talking about the things like Chronicles and Kings and stuff like that. You can't tell me that you can fit them within those 66 books, because I know here in Houston that if you want to go and look up the history of Houston, and Houston is less than 300 years old, right? Less than 200, if I'm not mistaken. Less than 200 years old. You have cabinets and cabinets of microfilm of their history. Less than 200 years old. And and you have microfilm cabinets of your history and your ordinances and all of your laws and so on and so forth. There's no way. And this is a city. This is just a city, not a nation. That all the judges, that's all we got. That's all we got. Because if we had all the judges, if we had those records, like we go into microfilm to go when you're researching things, you can go and find out things about, in the city, for whatever. If you're facing some kind of legal dispute or this or that, or you need to know certain ordinances you're about to build, you're about to do this, you're about to do that, if you could go back and see how certain things were ruled, we would have a better understanding on our culture and lifestyle if we were able to see all of that. Even like the Chronicles, it used to, when you read Chronicles, or in some places or in Kings, when they say and all that he's done was written in the book of the Kings and everything. It's like they redacted, reduced rather, to Cliff Notes almost. So yeah, we have a interesting situation in our community, y'all. Yeah, we don't have all of our records to be able to just totally pinpoint down our culture and how we function. But I do know this: we can't continue to oppress ourselves and oppress our women. Because we can't, the strong family, strong community, I am because we are, that's real, y'all. And this civil war that we got going on with us, why if you ever take the time, here's a little homework for you. Take the time and one day just listen to nothing but country music. And you see the music that they play in for themselves. You would, and discover how many love songs or the songs about family. That's a song that I love, to listen to whenever I think about my pops. It's called My Old Man. We don't have a song about our old man. We don't have any songs like that. And I've said even back before I came into the way, I said one of the reasons the statistics of divorces in churches was so high is because they didn't have any love music. They didn't have any Luther Vandross. They didn't have Freddie Jackson. They didn't have none of that. They didn't have love music. Isley Brothers. They didn't have love music. And here you got T.D. Jakes put out this thing several years ago, The Lady, Her Lover, and Her Lord. And I was like, dude, I ain't trying to hear nothing about no blood when I'm trying to move around. Understand? While I'm trying to entangle, I'm trying to get, with my wife. I ain't talking about no entanglement with nobody else. So when I'm trying to entangle with my wife, I'm not trying to hear nothing about no blood. No dying. No piercing. Well, maybe some piercing. So I'm just saying, y'all, that's not a love song. And we see this happening if anybody should be an example of how you treat your woman, is supposed to be us, because we have the greatest example of how a man treats his woman. Our Elohim. Look at how our Elohim treated his wife. Did he ever acquiesce to Israel's desire? Did he ever? I submit to you that yes, he has. Even the fact that there is the ability to have more than one wife is an area where he acquiesced to where Israel was. He even bargained with us regarding the feast days. He was like, man, look, just forget about the feast days, man. Just keep my Shabbat. How's about the time when, with Abraham, when he was fixing to go, when Yah came and told him, hey, man, I'm finna take these folk out. And Abraham negotiated with him. Or how's about the time when Moshe was talking, was like, hey, don't kill him, such and what or not. Okay, so there was times that Yah acquiesced. And I'm gonna tell you something, man. Look, women by nature make more. I experienced this back in 2001 when we lost everything. Lane and I lost everything. We came back to Houston. We were in California. We came back to Houston, and we were rebuilding. And she wanted to. She say, "Well, hey, let's talk about this real estate thing that you would talk about from time to time," because I wanted to do real estate, and I had done it before with my brother-in-law. He bought a house. We renovated it. I know how to put down tile, carpet, painting, and all that kind of stuff. Hang sheetrock, all that. Know how to do all that, right? So I talked to her on a couple of occasions. She wasn't ready to pull the trigger, so I'm not gonna force that, right? Because I want us to be in it together. I want to, hey, both of us can't. Nobody point no fingers at nobody, right? So I laid out my plan when she asked. They said, "Hey, come on, tell me. Let's talk about this real estate." I laid out my plan, and I thought my plan was just a bomb. And she looked at it, and she do this thing. She'll turn her head a little bit, put her hand like that, and she asked me a question. Now, if I was an alpha male, I wouldn't allow her to ask me no question. No, yeah, this is what we're gonna do. But she said, "Why would you do that? What about this?" She wasn't asking well, why would you do that? Like that was a stupid idea. No, she was trying to figure out, why would you do that rather than this? And when she described, now here it is, I'm supposed to be the whole real estate guru, right? Been listening to Carlton Sheets and everything. Anybody out there remember Carlton Sheets? Back in the day, there were late infomercials and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm the guy. The fact that I've done it with my brother-in-law before and everything. And here it is, my wife, who has not done it, is asking me a question. Ask me, why would you do this rather than that? I had to be open to be able to see what she was seeing, because she's a set of fresh eyes. And I kid you not, the amount of money she made from that scenario, it was like, because I was saying, if we do this particular thing, it was still going to take me about 3 or 4 years to leave the job that I was at, right? Well, her plan took me off that job in 3 to 6 months. Her plan put us way more money in the bank to be able to do the process over again, right? And gave us residual income. Her plan. And I knew then, I say, I need you to, wherever I go, wherever, I go to learn something, I need to pass it by you, because you see something that I don't see. And that's the truth. Women, again, it's contrast. A helper suitable, Ezer Kenegdo. It's contrast. She was made in contrast to man. Now, anybody out there who know about contrast, like right now, you're looking at this video. There's contrast in my face, right? Why? Because I got light on this side and I have a shadow on this side. That makes the picture more interesting. But let me take away the contrast. Low contrast. That picture is not as interesting, is it? As you can see, my camera started adjusting to the low light. But any picture, if you manipulate the contrast and take out the contrast, you don't have a picture. You don't have a picture. No, you don't have a picture. So, all in all, let us imitate Yah and paying attention to our wives. Not this whole blue pill thing where you suppress your wife, and your wife is a second-class citizen in your world. All right. Look, that's it. That's all I'm gonna share. It's some more or whatever. But look like I've been on here 50 minutes. So I'm gonna let that ride. So anyway, love your wife. Men, you have the power to know who your spouse is. Women, you have the power to know who your husband is. You don't have to guess. I've said many years, 30 years ago, I had a ministry called Single Society. And I was teaching just that. People, when you discover you discover your spouse, right? When the time is right, not to sound like the Cialis commercial, when the time is right. No, when the Father has deemed you ready to procreate, to continue his lineage. And I'm not saying that sex is all about only procreating. Yeah, that's some leisure, that's some pleasure. Yes, it's a blessing. But anytime you hear a leader or somebody talking about that they don't love their wife and their wife know it, I like my wife, which what this brother said. He said, I like my wife. I don't love my wife, and she knows this. I question that. Because the Most High made for sure that we understood that we were the apple of his eye, that all other nations were spittle, that there's nothing, his love for us was unending, that we would, that the moon and the stars and the sun would have to cease in order for us to cease being a nation. Make sure your wife know that she's the one. Just imitate Yah. That's all I'm telling you. That's all I'm telling you. That's all I'm saying. Imitate Yah. And Yah don't do no red pill. Hands down. Peace and blessings. Have a great evening.